Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK and welcome back to Umineko When They Cry. We're in a little bit of a weird situation here because the family members and the servants, they're in Kinzo's study. And at the same time, on the game board, but on the witches side of things, they're trying to prevent Beatrice and Kinzo from leaving. They're trying to reject things with, Beatrice is actually trying to throw the blue, and we have these new characters that are trying to throw the red back at her. And so it's getting really complicated here. I have no other way to describe what is going on here, but I also just want to point out, since I was in the settings before starting the recording session, look at this a crazy amount of characters that we've come across. It's crazy how many characters we've met so far, and I feel like we're not done yet. Because every chapter or every episode continues to surprise me. Beatrice, who had until then thoroughly resisted the idea that a closed room existed, did an about-face. She proclaimed that she accepted their proposition. Of course, this didn't mean that she'd surrendered. This was a new attack of Beato's. Delanor noticed this and readied herself. I think that one hit. After bouncing at an erratic angle, the witch's stake pierced the top of Delanor's foot. So Kinzo's not really here, even so he is? Asmodeus' stake, which contained the power of Beato's blue truth and pierced Delanor's foot, now changed into a blue wedge. A cyclone of gold butterflies swept up with Beato at its center. The magical power of the once smashed black gate was once again refilled. If I can manage to hold Delanor off here, well, I'll be able to warp Kinzo out of the study this time, all the way to Kuwadorian. Delanor moved clumsily, trying to pull the blue wedge out of her foot, but it didn't even budge. Of course, Beato didn't miss this chance. No witch would. That is such a stretch. Oh, there we go. Another hit. Beelzebub's blue wedge pierced the base of Delanor's neck. Of course, even this didn't cause her to flinch, but her movements were restricted even further.
密室ゆえに脱出不可能というなら、まだこの部屋に隠れている可能性だって否定できぬわ。隠し扉ではないぞ。例えばベッドの下とか天井裏とか、悪魔さえ知り得ない、それでいて実にさりげない死角に隠れているかもしれぬな。あるいは金蔵より特別に自分の代行を命じられた夏日は、自らを当主代行であると同時にもう一人の金蔵だと自覚したかもしれぬ。
Okay, we're bringing in a similar idea from episode 4.
つまり夏日が同時に金蔵でもあるという可能性だ。まだまだあるぞ。金蔵は昨夜の23時の時点で窓から脱出していたのだ。
I don't know about that one because it did get locked.
そして夏日がそれを
Oh,
見届
okay,
け
there it
窓に
is.
施錠をした。
Yeah, I tried on that one.
これでも何の問題もないぞ。いや、むしろ一番美しい青き真実ではないのか。どうだ、ドラノルエノックス。この密室より脱出する方法などいくらでもあるわ。我が主に立てつく愚かさを知れ。お前には何の反論の必要もない。そのまま破れて永遠に眠れ。
Oh boy. The seven sisters appeared from Beato's golden tornado one after another, piercing Delanor with blue wedges. 4 blue wedges were buried into her neck, chest, gut, and thigh. Including the one buried into the top of her foot, she was pincushioned by 5 stakes.
他にも思いついたら使ってやる。今は静かにしておれ。どうか魔女狩り人ドラノール。魔女を次々串刺しにして火にくべてきたそなたが逆に魔女に串刺しにされるのはどのような気持ちか。
They were all ridiculous arguments, but they came fiercely one after another. Though a total of 5 wedges pierced Eleanor, her expression didn't change in the slightest. However, her movements had indeed been limited. Yeah. What's she gonna do?
見事です、ベアトリーチェ。この書斎が無人で密室だったとしても、それだけでお父様の存在を否定させるわけにはいきません。波の相手ならこれで決まりと思うところだがな。だがあやつはドラノール、実戒を破った自分の父さえ切り伏せた冷酷女よ。金蔵、今のうちに。
Now that Eleanor had been pinned down, this was their last chance to recover their magical power and escape. Once again, a pitch-black gate began to rise slowly in front of Beato and Kinzo. Though the gate had once been opened by simply drawing in the air, it wasn't so easy in the study now, filled as it was with the power of denial.
いかがですか皆さん。この書斎のことをどう問おうとも、お父様のご健在を揺るがすことなどできないのです。
おやおや、おっしゃいますね。あなたも、そして私も、この戦いの一部であることを忘れない方がいいですよ。私に魔女と戦うことはできませんが、あなたと戦うことはできます。
Erica grinned at Natsuhi with a smile more demonic than a real demon's. What's she gonna do?
夏日さん、重ねてお伺いしますが、あなたは昨夜、確かにこの部屋で、後ろ宮金蔵さんとお話ししたんですね。
ええ、一日の報告とお休みのご挨拶をしておりましたと何度も言っております。
おかしなことを聞きますが、あなたの潔白を証明するための大切なことですので、はぐらかさずにお願いします。あなたの言う金蔵さんとは、私たちの認識する後ろ宮金蔵さんですね。
Okay, we're getting into the specifics here.
その名を持つ別の人物、別の存在ということはありませんね。
よくおっしゃる意味がわかります。つまりこういうことよ。お父様亡き後、 この部屋自体をお父様と呼んでたりするなんてことはないの？
Yeah, we're really getting into the topics just discussed on the witches side
っ
here.
て聞いてるのよ。あんたはお父様にお休み前に一日の報告をしていたなんて言ってたわね。それはお父様という名の書斎で一日の報告を壁に向かってしていたという意味じゃないの？無礼な、そんなことはありません。お父様はお父様です。健在でいらっしゃいます。そして確かに昨夜私がここで報告とお休みの挨拶をさせていただきました。何のごまかしも言い逃れもありません。
なるほど。では私の言葉が復唱できますか？あなたが何のごまかしもまやかしもないというなら私の言葉が復唱できるはずです。
いいでしょう。何でも復唱します。
復唱4期後宮夏日は昨夜23時この部屋で後宮金蔵と確かに同室して会話しました。
私後宮夏日は昨夜23時この部屋で後宮金蔵と確かに同室して会話しました。
See, it's not really the red text, but I mean, it's up to you to kind of determine whether or not she's lying.
グッと。では最後にお聞きします。まさか夏日さんその後に金蔵さんを窓から放り出して自ら窓を閉めて施錠したなんてことはありませんよね。それでも筋が通っちゃいますので。
どうして私がお父様を窓から追い出さなくてはならないのですか？程があります。愚弄にも程があります。
金慶謹んで申し上げたてまつり、夏日の指す金蔵とは後宮金蔵以外のいかなるものも意味しないこと。
Oh,
謹んで申し上げる。
we're beginning to erase a little bit of the damage that Beatrice was able to do here.
金慶謹んで申し上げたてまつり、夏日は書斎にて23時に金蔵と対面したことを主張するものなり。
Natsuhi let out a cry, but it was too late. She had been totally suckered in by their provocation. The blue wedge to the foot representing a telephone discussion. The blue wedge to the neck representing the study itself being called Kinzo. The blue wedge to the gut representing Natsuhi herself being called Kinzo. The blue wedge to the thigh representing Natsuhi letting Kinzo escape out the window and locking it afterwards. The four of them were smashed up with a thin sound because Natsuhi, the one who knew the truth, had denied them. Those denials had gained the power of the red truth. Despite Kinzo's absence in this closed room, Beato had introduced 5 ways that Kinzo could still exist. Natsuhi had carelessly crushed the premises behind 4 of those herself. Only 1 wedge remained. In other words, this was the last blue truth that could bury the contradiction of Kinzo existing in the study at 11 p.m., but not existing there later, after it became a closed room. There was only the theory that pierced Eleanor's chest. Kinzo is hiding somewhere in this room. With that theory, even if Kinzo wasn't present in this closed room study, he could still exist there. If this wedge of Satan's were to be crushed, their chances of escaping this room would become hopelessly dim.
ベアトリーチェ様、早く今のうちにお逃げを。
Eleanor slowly grasped the final wedge, which still pierced her chest. Apparently, that vice-like grip was hurting Satan, as though all the bones in her body were being broken.
残るくさびはこの1本だけです。この部屋のどこかに金蔵が隠れているというものでしたね。そのすべてを探偵である私が探しました。それでも見つからないなら一体どこに隠れていると？
With the final wedge still sticking out of her chest, Eleanor slowly approached Beato. If this wedge was taken out, then
お聞きします。一体金蔵がこの書斎のどこに隠れている
さてな、ベッドの下かもしれんぞ。
か探索済みです。
uh-oh.
バスタブの中かもしれん。
探索済みです。
He's not in any of these locations. He's not in this room.
クローゼットの中、机の下、カーテンの束の中。
探索済みです。
Oh man.
済みです。
She's having fun with this.
本棚の裏、戸棚の裏、絨毯の裏、床裏、天井裏、壁紙の裏、ソファーの中に椅子の中、ベッドの中に布団の中に壁の中、石の中、岩の中、部屋の中。
済みです。済みです。済みです。済み済み済みですですです。
Yeah, she's... Oh my god. Oh wow. Gotta love the English. Gotta love it. No locations would work against Eleanor by this point. Eleanor took Beato's final desperate onslaught head on, turning everything back with a far stronger power of denial. It is interesting to consider the situation that Beatrice is now in. It's kind of the complete opposite as where she was when she was actually, you know, running the show in the first few episodes. It was Battler's position where he was trying to figure all this stuff out and was getting denied by Beatrice. Beat them up, knock them down with overwhelming force. No longer does any place exist in this study for Kinzo to escape to. Beato was blown back like a leaf dancing in the wind, knocked around over and over again like an empty can lying on a road. By now, no matter how many times Beato used the blue truth, it wouldn't be able to defeat Eleanor's red.
情けないもんですね。無限の言い逃れで真実をごまかし続けるだけ。ドラノールの言葉を私も借ります。失望ですよ、ベアトリーチェさん。
Erica coldly delivered these decisive words to Beato, who was crawling on the ground.
探偵権利。探偵は全ての現場を検証する権利を持つ。そして私は権利を行使しました。よって宣言します。この部屋に金蔵さんはいません。そして部屋の密室も完璧です。以上の2点から断言します。この部屋はずっと無人です。夏日さんが金蔵さんに昨晩ここで会ったと嘘をついていたのです。以上、これでチェックメイトです。ベアト
Beginning to hear a lot of Burnka still out of her.
いかがです？ただこの部屋が存在するだけでフルドエリカはこの程度の推理が可能です。いかがでしょうか、皆様方。
At these words, the final wedge shattered. And at the same time, the pitch black gate that was about to open shattered once again. This time, the warp portal had been completely destroyed. No longer would Kinzo be permitted to exist in this room or escape from it. Beato struggled to her feet. Now, that was the best that she could do. She no longer had the energy to fight. She had taken all the denying red head-on from close range. It took all her strength just to withstand a pain so strong it felt like she'd vomit up all her insides. Even Beato, who would always aim for the title of strongest and most evil witch, couldn't do a thing against a witch hunter. No matter how sturdy a sandcastle you build on the beach, it can never win against the rising tide.
やっぱ 手が悪い。
ベアトリーチェ、感謝するぞ。恨み残りし私のためによくぞここまで戦ってくれた。
死期を悟ると走馬灯が見えるってのは本当らしいな。そなたの若かりし日々の面影を思い出してしまったぞ。腹が立つくらいバトラに似ておったな。
私の魂も、そして当主の資格も今や全てバトラが受け継いでおるわ。もはや何の未練もなし。
Well, that's that, I guess.
バトラ、すまぬ。そなたと再び戦おうと誓いながら、この程度で手じまいとは無念だ。
To Beato, it seemed as though Battler had met her gaze. There was no way he could have. This Battler was the Peace Battler. There was no way he could see Beato in this higher level world. However, his eyes really did meet hers. Even though they couldn't have, Beato was sure they did. As Erica, Ava, and the others closed in on Natsuhi, questioning her over and over, only Battler stood apart from that tumult. His expression held none of the enthusiasm and excitement that the other humans had. It just was piercingly and coldly surveyed the scene. There we go. I was like, what am I reading? And the expression on his face was a quiet displeasure, anger. He wasn't feeling compassion for Natsuhi because her lie was about to be exposed. However, he couldn't excuse Erica as a self-proclaimed intellectual rapist who simply enjoyed cornering Natsuhi and those who sympathized with her. Then he whispered softly. Oh, there it is. Beato and the others definitely heard that.
バトラはまさかこの劣勢をひっくり返せるというのか。
ありし日の私ならできただろうな。そしてバトラならできるであろうぞ。
バトラ。
バトラよ、私より全てを受け継ぎし男であるならば、今こそその証を示せ。黄金の魔女伝説をこんなところで終わらせるな。
私は昨夜確かにここでお父様に会いました。確かにです。そして後宮家の栄光ある歴史とそれを担う責任の重さについて。
もうその嘘は暴かれているんです。夏日さん、あなたが昨夜一人でこの部屋にいたことはもう分かってるんです。そろそろ諦めて告白に入ってもらえませんか。犯人の往生際の悪さとミステリーの出来の悪さは比例するんです。最後くらいこれがちょっとはマシな三流ミステリーだったことを証明してください。
ああ、ダメだな。
Alright, here we go.
全然ダメだぜ。
Battler, who had been silent off by himself up until then, spoke. At first, it sounded as though he was attacking Natsuhi. However, when Erica realized he was glaring directly at her, her expression visibly clouded with displeasure.
何がダメなんですか。
ミステリーが三流なら、その探偵も三流だな。いいぜ。俺がじい様になってやるよ。
What?
バトラ。
あなたが金蔵さん。まさか金蔵さんになってこの部屋からの失踪を再現してみせようっていうんですか。まさか私のチェックメイトを否定されるというつもりで。バカな。
この男は何を言ってるのですか。
Good question.
新しく来たお嬢さん方、ここのゲームは初めてか。悪いが、その程度でチェックメイトって言っちまうようじゃ全然ダメだぞ。ああ、本当にダメだな。
どういうことだバトラー。お前が親父になるだと。
ああ、再現してやるぜ。俺がじい様になってこの部屋から消え去ってやる。
扉も窓もアウトやで。どうやって。
隠し扉の場所は分かったんですか？
私たちにはさっぱり。さっぱり。
Okay, what's his plan here? That sound wasn't just the noise of the onlookers fidgeting. It was a provocative chill that ran up Erica's spine.
気に入りました。そうですね。あなたは当主の指輪を持つ後宮家次期当主金蔵さんの代役を務める資格は十分あるでしょう。見せてもらおうじゃないですか。あなたの推理。
Erica's expression was no longer a challenging smile. It was malicious, overwhelmingly displeased. She couldn't conceal her anger at having this very pleasurable time of hers ruined.
どうやってここからわらわたち。
読めたわ。なるほど、その手が残っておったか。
今頃気づいたかクソじじい。隠し扉だのベッドの下に隠れただの。情けねえ話ばかり泣けてくれ。俺たちは天下御免の後宮金蔵の話をしてるんだぜ。少し痛快かつ豪快な答えは出てこねえのかっての。
まったくだ。自らのこととはいえ私にも思いつけなかったとは情けない。そして我が血族がこれだけ揃い私を理解しているのが6年を経て帰ったバトラだけというのも情けない。バトラ、私の代役であるぞ。無様な真似は見せるな。
おうじじい、後宮家当主の貫禄ってやつを客どもに教えてやるぜ。
何をなさるおつもりですか、お父様。
ナツベアタリーチェ、見ているがいい。後宮家当主とはどういうものか教えてやる。
バトラ、何をしてみせるつもりなら。
何もできるわけがないです。この部屋は完全な密室なんですから。
夏代おばさん、こっちへ来てくれ。そして今から話す通りに動いてくれ。
Battler called Natsuhi over to the window and whispered something to her with his back towards the others.
ミス・ドラノール、万が一はありませんよね。この部屋から金蔵と魔女を取り逃すようなことはありえませんよね。
無論です。ガートルード、コーネリア、そして英主体。密室の封印は完璧か今一度確認するのです。
金慶、謹んで申し上げ立てまつる。我らの結界は完璧なりよ。
金慶、隠し扉はなく扉からも窓からも逃れることかなわず、英主体はバトラが結界を破りしとき躊躇なく矢を放ちたまえ。
シレスタ隊、了解であります。バトラ様、お覚悟を。
この部屋から脱出なんて不可能です。でもあいつはやるに。どうやって？根拠がなくてもやり遂げると確信できる。それが後宮の当主ってもんに。
Oh, I just sort of assumed that was like the bullshitting way. It's how I graduated from college.
ですが、見せてもらいましょうか。
ええ、リーチェの対戦相手の貫禄ってやつをね。
Alright, what does Battler have here?
では、始めるぜ。
Everyone nodded and watched Battler's every move.
じい様である俺は、こうしてベッドで横になり、夏日おばさんの一日の報告とやらに相槌を打っていた。
Battler lay down on the bed himself. As if it still mattered now, Erica grumbled about disturbing the crime scene, but no one listened to her.
そして、俺は返事をしなくなり。まあどうせ、長話に飽きて寝たふりでもしたんだろうぜ。
貴様は分かっておる。
Damn, that's fucked up even if that's not what actually went down.
私はお父様がお休みになったのを見届け、黙礼してから立ち去ります。
Natsuhi lowered her head to Battler, who was still lying down on the bed, and turned around. Then she started wandering around, as though doing an inspection of the room.
夏日おばさんは じい様の就寝を見届けた後、室内のチェックをしてから退出するそう。もちろんシャノンちゃんたちに毎日掃除をさせてるんだが、それでもおばさんは細かくチェックしているわ。埃が落ちてないかどうか、消耗品は切れてないかどうか。
はい、大切な当主様の部屋ですから、使用人任せにせず自らでも細かくチェックしています。これは必ず行っていることです。
そうです。奥様は普段からとても丁寧にチェックしています。
チェックは細かく、水場の消耗品一つ一つにまで及びます。
つまりよくテレビドラマで見るような窓辺のほこりだけじゃない、水場の洗剤の残量やトイレのトイレットペーパーの残数さえ見て、毎日でなくてもいいだろう。まめなことさ。
それは日課です。一日たりとも当主様のお部屋のチェックに気の緩みがあってはなりません。
それが何だって言うんですか？もったいぶるのも大概にしてください。
もったいぶるのは探偵の特権でしょ。
ではこの私、
こうして書斎にいればわかるだろうが、書斎という名で呼んではいるが、ここはもはや屋敷の中に存在するセカンドハウスと言ってもいい。寝室があり、書斎があり、水場があり、トイレも風呂もある。
I will say it's a little unfortunate that the backgrounds, like, they only show the study part. We don't see the bed, we don't see the bathroom, or any of that.
つまり一つの部屋じゃない、一つの家という。
書斎内の構造説明感謝です。しかしそのどこかに隠れるという手はすでに破られています。
I don't think that's the goal. I think it's slipping out before this became a closed room and Natsuhi didn't know.
隠れはしないさ。だが資格はいくらでもある。例えば夏日おばさんがトイレットペーパーの数を調べ、トイレに夏日おばさんから書斎のほぼ全ては資格となる。つまり書斎のほぼ全域から観測者が消えたのだ。
観測者消失、建造が失態します。
金系、書斎内に魔女の闇が充満すしこと。
よいぞ、闇の力が満ちてきた。
観測者が夏日がいなくなったからなんだと。それで
じい様はようやく小うるさい夏日おばさんが姿を消したので、
どうして
このようなイカれた夜にイカれた天気の夜空をめでることに勝る酒の魚はないわ。
夏日おばさんがトイレという資格にいる以上、じい様には書斎を自由に歩き回ることが可能になる。
It was possible for him to move without Natsuhi's knowledge. It was possible for him to move without contradicting what Natsuhi knew.
警告、バトラが書斎扉に接近するであります。
金系、書斎扉のロック解除時には騒音が鳴り響くものなり、夏日に不審に思われずして扉より出ることかなわぬと知りたまえ。
Because Battler had acted as though he was heading for the door, Gertrude, who was sealing the door, immediately sent out a warning. Maybe it was possible for him to leave the study while in Natsuhi's blind spot. However,
そうよ、音よ。オートロックの解除には大きな音がするのを私たちは知っているわ。書斎内の死角に夏日がいたとしても、オートロックを解除する時のあの大きな音は聞き逃さない。不審に思わないはずがない。
金系、夏日は扉の開く音、在室中に聞くことはなかりけりこと申し上げたくまつる。
because he didn't go to the door, he didn't leave through the door. The washroom and toilet are very close to the door. Even if they hadn't been, that auto lock always lets off such a massive sound. There we go. She'd be able to hear that sound no matter what. Natsuhi had already spoken with Erica and the others about the details of the previous night, making it quite clear that nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. Any argument that relied on Natsuhi failing to hear the lock wouldn't work.
金系、重ねて申し上げたてまつる。 扉より金蔵が出入ること叶わぬものに。
金兄、無駄なあがきと申し上げ立てまつる。意図愚かなる。
確かに破れねえな。扉だ。窓のあんたはどうだ。
Yep, there we go. Turning his back to Gertrude, who claimed that leaving through the door was impossible, Battler locked his gaze on Cornelia, who stood in front of the window.
しっかり張れよ。結界とやら。お前、ぶっ飛ぶぜ。
By now, Battler's target was clear. It was Cornelia. It was the window. He was going to smash this closed room from the window. Not expecting to be chosen as the target herself, Cornelia was overawed for just a second, but she quickly regained her composure. On rare occasions, struggling, fleeing witches would directly challenge the barriers that Cornelia set up. Such witches were always fighting desperately on the brink of death.
金慶、慎んで申し上げる。バトラの標的はあなた。コーネリア、注意申し上げるものなり。
意図愚かなる。神よ、この愚かなる子羊を憐れみたまえ。
羊じゃねえ。後ろ宮家当主ってのはな、片翼でもな。その程度の窓で書斎にいつまでも閉じ込めておけると思うんじゃねえぜ。
I just want to point out that that was a strong statement by Battler. I love that shit. No sheep, straight up eagle. It didn't have to include the one wing part though. Starting from a low posture, both silent and supple, Battler ran forward like a white leopard.
まさかこいつは。これは金慶、我が赤が破れる道理はなし。そなたの望み叶うことなしと知りたまえ。
Cornelia thrust out both her arms and made a sign. When she did, a red barrier closed in front of Battler. I mean, yeah, there's no safe way for him to get down. That's why they had to use a ladder to get up.
無駄と申し上げ立てまつる。後宮バトラ。金慶、我が窓は内より閉ざされ、また夏日が金蔵を逃したることもなし。
夏日おばさんがじい様を逃がしたんじゃねえ。じい様、夏日おばさんに隠れて自ら抜け出したとしたら。
That's what I'm thinking.
どうして窓から自分で出るんですか、金蔵。
このイカれた番に雨天へ飛び出すくらい酒の座興程度にしかならぬわ、私にとってはな。
でもここ3階ですよ。
そなたとて階段を降りるとき一段くらい飛ばすこともあるであろう。金蔵なら3階くらいは。
No, that's definitely something for a man who's like on the brink of death.
やりかねませんが。
やりかねませんね。
そんな。
Maybe that's just how he died, too. Blue cracks appeared in Cornelia's red barrier, and it shattered with a crisp sound. I mean, we know he's dead. I'm just saying, like, hypothetically, with this whole shit going on right now, it was all far too quick. It looked almost as though she had gotten out of the way herself in fear of Battler. I swear, they just make shit up as we go along. At the same time, the barrier shattered. The window behind Cornelia's back was flung open. The curtains fluttered for just an instant. And though it was all filled with rain, the heavens and the courtyard were spread out in front of them. A fitting exit for an eagle leaping from the closed room. Cornelia quickly returned to her senses and set up another red barrier. However, this was her last one. Natsuhi locked it when she came back because she noticed that it was unlocked. Kinzo and Battler grinned. Did she think that this feeble red could block the charge of Battler and Kinzo, the two family heads?
じい様が窓より飛び出した後、夏日おばさんがちょっとした隙間風に気づいたが、そして窓辺に近づき、窓が開きっぱなしになっていたことに気づき、慌てて閉めて施錠した。
私がまさか窓から抜け出したなど、夏日は想像もできなかったろうな。
ああ、だから夏日おばさん、じい様はベッドで寝ていると思ったのと。
Oh, there we have that. Now that Battler had found the answer, the red barrier was more fragile than thin glass. The red magical wall of certainty had been smashed again so easily that it disgraced the name of certainty itself. Unbelievable, right? That barrier was more firm than any Renove had ever used against Jessica, and yet it had been destroyed so easily. Though Battler was rushing fiercely and had almost reached Cornelia, she didn't step aside. Her steel spirit, worthy of the name... shit. I can't... Again, I have no idea how to pronounce this. Eserne Jungfrau didn't allow her to step aside. She took a charm from her pocket, placed it against the thin air, and made a sign. Then, not red, but blue burned there. Though it was far more frail than the red barrier, it was her last method of resistance. Interesting. Battler jumped. He burst through Cornelia and her blue barrier, knocked them away, and his body flew out the window through the darkness of the rainy sky. So how'd he do it? Is he going to demonstrate this, like, to the family members and servants? Or is he currently? The fragments of the blue barriers scattered, beautifully adorning the surrounding air. The closed room had been smashed open. Battler flew out the mansion, through the sky above the rainy courtyard. And all the raindrops became small round gems that then were scattered through the air. Battler flew across the treasure box world of that exquisite stormy sky, through the countless gems of rain that filled it. Okay, but what is he doing? In the sky over the world frozen in time, Delanor and Battler face each other. If Battler, who had smashed and flown out the window, was like a knight leaping off a white horse, then Delanor was another knight who floated in the air waiting for him. In the air above the courtyard, surrounded by the Ushiromiya mansion and frozen in time. The true new head of the Ushiromiya family and the disciple of heaven, who would test him cross paths.
見事です。たとえあなたが中庭に落ち生きようが死のうが、金蔵に密室が打ち破れたことに変わりはない。命を捨てて飛んだあなたこそ殉教者。よくぞ我らの密室結界を打ち破ってみせました。あっぱれです。後ろ宮バトラー。されど、我こそは史跡異端審問家ドラノル・エノックス。みすみすと逃すことはできません。最後に我がたちにあなたと交える栄誉を与えたまえ。
Oh boy.
ああ、歓迎してやる。このゲーム。案外甘くないぜ。
In this world where the gems of rain fell slowly like large snowflakes on a snowy field, Delanor and Battler slowly crossed paths. It seems slow, and yet it happened in a flash. Their gazes crossed and clashed like lightning. Night confronted night head-on, and everything would be settled with a single strike. Blue and red crossed paths.
書斎内に夏日の資格が存在することがあらかじめ示されましたが、示されていないならばこの推理は許されません。ノックス第8提示されない手がかりでの解決を禁ず。
Okay. I get what she's saying. Delanor's double strike with both the blue and red blades reached out to slice Battler, and failed. Those long swords, which had never lost over the course of 100 battles, cut through empty air. For the first time, an expression showed on Delanor's face. It was a sudden smile. She had known about that long before. However, she still couldn't let him escape without attempting that single strike. Not even with her reputation as an Inquisitor of Heresy on the line. She still crossed swords with Battler, even though she knew it would fail. In Battler's hand was a blade that shone red. That blade etched out the red truth. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Kinzo's study was a small villa that he had created inside the mansion. A study, a book archive, a place to sleep, and a bathroom and washroom. It was divided into multiple rooms. That had already been shown, and it suggests that there could have been a blind spot somewhere within the room. I mean, again, I get it. It's not like a big old square room where if you stand at one end, you can always see something. Without any mercy, no, without any reluctance, which had been dishonorable, or which would have been dishonorable, the sword of red truth cut into Delanor. It cut a beautiful hemisphere through the countless gems of rain that filled the sky. Time exploded into life. Both of them fell through the courtyard. One drifted down, the other tumbled through the air. Then there was a soft sound and a dull thud. The first was the sound of Battler landing gently in the courtyard. The second was the sound of Delanor crashing down. So, was there like anything down here to break somebody's fall if they were to jump? After crouching down for a while, Battler slowly stood up. Though he had jumped down from the third floor, he had landed as lightly as though he had merely jumped over the fence. Beato leaned out the study window, looking to see if the supposedly wingless Battler had landed safely.
Beato, quick, tobe! その窓が俺たちの出口の扉だ。だから飛べ。お前は密室に閉じ込められてるような魔女じゃないだろうが。
The study was no longer a closed room. She could jump from here, escape from here. By now, the closed room that had threatened to capture the witch and suffocate her had been destroyed.
金蔵も
行け。バトラが答えを見せた時点で、わしの魂はすでにこの密室を逃れておる。
Kinzo's form became a cloud of gold butterflies and disappeared. The closed room barrier had dissolved and the power that denies magic had scattered. Beato ran towards the window. That was the only exit from the closed room of this witch hunt. After glancing at the Chester sisters and the subordinates of the Inquisitor of Heresy, she readied her wound-covered body and ran towards the window just like Battler had done. She looked like Cinderella running as she heard the bell toll. Erika flew at Beato, trying to latch on to Beato as she dashed. But it was like trying to catch smoke, and she landed face first on the floor. There's no way a human could catch a witch. For one such as her, without love, even touching Beato was impossible. Shoot her dead. Both Jester 00 and Gertrude spoke with unbelievably calm voices. Wow. Erica crouched, screaming and clutching at her head.
天下の黄金の魔女がジジイのカビ臭い書斎ごときで打ち破られてるんじゃねえ。まだ第一の番だろうが、新参どもにお前のゲームが甘くないってことを思い知らせてやれ。
I mean, he's got a point. Just like Battler, Beato also flew. Alright, well this is quite the scene. She drifted down through the rain treasure box whirled into Battler's chest. Battler caught her with both arms as though catching a feather from an angel. It was like a knight catching a princess who had been locked up in a tower. Like a beautiful picture of a scene in some fairy tale.
やっばい惚れたわ。
Calm down, Gap.
後ろ宮家の当主ってこういうやつらばっかなの？
後宮金蔵の破天荒を記す書斎の魔導書の数に負けない長い波乱の物語が書けるでしょう。その次の当主の物語記す価値が大いにありそうだ。いえいえ、もう記しておりますと、それは長い物語。
The demons giggled on top of the roof holding umbrellas. Then they quietly looked down over the two in the courtyard.
お前やるな。
Yeah, he's had some practice with all this.
お前のゲームで何回鍛えられたと思ってんの。
In shock, Beato actually praised Battler as he held her in his arms. Battler laughed in his usual carefree way.
こんなことがありえないありえない。
Erica looked down from the window and clenched her teeth, still clutching at her head. Still holding Beato in his arms, Battler grinned back.
エリカ、
何ですか？
黄金の魔女の謎はお前には触れてやらない。俺がこいつはな、俺たち二人のまあベアと。
わらわの謎は
そう。
When Battler laughed evilly, Beato's face turned uncharacteristically red. But even so, she spoke while laughing loudly.
わらわの謎はそなただけのものだ。後宮バトラー、他の誰にも解かせてはやらぬ。
こいつめ、ふざけたこと言いやがって。
Battler snorted, amused that Beato had said something so out of character. And still holding Beato in his arms, he spun around in a kind of a waltz. The falling gems of rain celebrated their victory over this trial.
3階の窓から飛び降りて、無事飛び降りて密室を脱出。ふざけてます。こんなの推理じゃない。
If Battler had at least been seriously injured and writhing in the mud, well, Erica might still have had some ground to stand on. Well, she might have been able to claim that Kinzo couldn't have jumped down with his old body and gotten away unscathed. However, Battler stood calmly in the courtyard looking up at Erica with the dignity of the victor.
皆さん、もう一度聞きますけど、こんなのありえませんよね。人間が3階の窓から飛び降りて平然と降り立つなんて。
I mean,
そんなのあるわけがない。
the only thing I can think of is that, you know, with it raining, the ground is softened up a little.
そうでしょ。みんなましてや老体の金蔵さんが3階から飛び降りてみせるなんて。
Erica tried to get everyone's agreement and somehow turn things around, but their responses were no different from how they had been a short while ago.
いや、金蔵さんならありえますな。
親父ならやりかね。
お父様だものね。
So Battler really did just jump out the fucking window, didn't he?
武勇伝の王よ人や。それくらいじゃ驚きもせんで。
あんたたち頭も正気もどうかしてんじゃないですか。
いずれにせよあなたの密室議論は完璧ではなかったわね。
Not only the servants, but the family members also agreed. They all agreed that there was nothing strange about Kinzo jumping down from a third-floor window. Just who in the world is this Ushiromiya Kinzo person?
まあ60点というところか。若かりし日の金蔵ならもう少し派手にやってみせるぞ。もうひとひねり欲しいところだ。
おお、どの程度にひねる？
そのわらわを抱いたまま飛び降りるくらいは。
Yeah, can you guys stop flirting already?
わかった。次の機会には抱いたまま飛び降りてください。
やれるものならやってみよう。
Beato's voice grew very faint, and she gulped. Then her body suddenly crumbled away into a cloud of gold butterflies. That was because many people had rushed up to the window and she was being bathed with gazes filled with the anti-magic toxin. Beato's body became invisible to them and melted into the air. So to their eyes, it appeared that Battler was standing all alone out in the courtyard.
Battler! 大丈夫か？
ご無事そうです。よかった。敗北です。
Yes, you have.
では主催の彼らのために私にとどめを。あの主催の密室でいかにして金蔵が逃れたのか、その最後の青き真実を。
There was no pain in Delanor's expression. Pleasure and pain never showed up on her face in the first place. I want to say there's a little bit of pleasure earlier, back when she was winning. However, she was only barely able to rise to her feet, using her longsword as a crutch, so it was easy to guess at how heavily she had been damaged. And despite her lack of an expression, you could tell that this was a loss that she could accept. Battler and Delanor turned to face each other. As though readying herself, Delanor quietly closed her eyes, but she still stood tall and maintained her air of dignity. The blue power gathered. Battler slowly approached Delanor. Then he faced the rainy sky and yelled out the blue truth.
Ushiromiya Kinzo wa Natsuki Oba-san no me o nusumi. Natsuki Oba-san wa sore ni kizukazu. Ma kore de Natsuki Oba-san ga 23時にじい様の就寝を見届け、扉のレシート封印、窓の内側からの施錠を矛盾させずに、じい様は書斎を脱出できる。実際に脱出可能であることは、この俺が実証した通り。以上でこの戦いを決着する。
Oh, there we have it. The blue wedge flashed through the courtyard along with the blue bolt of lightning, roaring down towards Delanor's forehead as she stared up at the sky. It's not something I necessarily thought of. A massive blue wedge that looked like a pillar was above Delanor's forehead, and had stopped with its tip just slightly touching her. It didn't run through her. It made no mark larger than being poked with a pencil. When Battler snapped his fingers, the blue wedge shattered and became a shower of translucent gems. No drops of rain that poured down over the courtyard. Delanor sat down in a dazed sort of way. Amidst the thunder and rain, the successor of the Ushiromiya family headship faced the people staring down from the study and spread his arms wide.
にグッドだわ。食らい尽くしている魔女の謎とやらをね、腹渡の奥の奥まで生きながらにね。
Battler and Beato both looked calmly up at Erica, who couldn't contain her evil laugh. Well, this was crazy. That's what I'm saying. All right, well, all that craziness aside, we'll wrap it up on that note. All right, so I'm sure you guys could tell, audio here in this video is definitely a little not right. But I wanted to just see how crazy it was. I'm going to have to make some changes. First off, music has got to be turned down. It was way too loud. I even think sound effects need to be turned down. Just a tad bit there. Yeah, whenever I, well, actually, let me state this. I have a new microphone, and I was surprised that my audio was completely messed up with Umineko. Not messed up in Fate, not messed up in any other game that I've played, or anywhere across my desktop. It's only this title. So I am using a different audio source with my new microphone. And maybe that's the reason why? Maybe? I don't know. Yeah, so new microphone. So if I sound different, if I sound worse, if I sound better, if I sound, you know, relatively the same, by all means, let me know. But the audio, yeah, the music is going to be way louder than voices in some cases here and there. I will continue to adjust audio down like I always do. It's just it's going to be adjusted further down because I can tell this shit was louder than it usually is. I typically have it louder for my sake since you guys wanted me to really hear everything, and then I have to lower it, you know, a bit so that, you know, my voice, you know, is still taking priority most of the time. So I'll make some adjustments for the next one. So apologies if this is like not necessarily unwatchable, but just different than previous videos. I don't know why the audio settings had to be changed, but everything was just way louder whenever I loaded in. So I just had to move everything down. But I'll try to work on it, and maybe I'll get into like the volume mixer in Windows or something, or try out my mixer and, you know, just try to see what I can do for this title in particular. But thank you all for coming into this one, tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed the battle of the wits in this one. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Again, hopefully I don't sound like shit, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.